Hello, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide, and on Thursday, the 9th, we had an Inside Star Citizen dealing with healing. This is a subject that I have been deeply interested about in the game, as being a healing player is a role that I have enjoyed in pretty much every multiplayer online game that I have ever tested or played. I purchased a Cutlass Red long enough ago to still have walked through the original hangar-only version of it. I've already done a couple of videos on things related to this subject, particularly when they started talking about using clones. I note that in this video they have dropped talking about clones in favor of revival and regeneration, so that's a good thing. Even though, functionally, I realize that there's not a lot of daylight between them, but the distinction is important. The distinction is that the UEE does not have the ability to instantly duplicate humans. So to start with an overview, I liked what I saw in the video, but if the medical gameplay was implemented with just the options described in the video, I predict that the backlash against it will be deafening. There needs to be a couple of extra specific options to prevent that. Yes, I know this is a Tier 0, but you can destroy a lot of goodwill with the wrong Tier 0. But before I get to the core of it, I want to touch on a couple of side issues.
Then you will leave behind all of your items and gear that's on you right now, but we can talk about that next week.
The first is that I hope we get the opportunity to purchase insurance for our personal equipment. During Xenothreat, I took to just having a dozen of my primary and secondary rifles in inventory because it just wouldn't be worth trying to refine my way through the Starfarer wreck with so much other urgent action going on to get a gun that might be bugged when I try to pick it up. Being able to have personal equipment insured will also answer a nagging question. Why doesn't your stuff have a bunch of bullet holes in it? Sure, having insurance would be expensive, and if you make a claim, it should be that your old gear on the ground belongs to the insurance company and not available for scavenging by you. The second thing is this.
That clearly if somebody's there still damaging you while you're in the down state, they can essentially coup de grace you, they can execute you, and you will be forced to regenerate.
Killing an incapacitated person must be an additional crime, even if the original takedown was a legal action such as self-defense, law enforcement, or a bounty hunter. It should give a significant additional punishment added to any sentence, even if you are already at crime stat 5. I'm planning a separate video on issues with crime in prisons, and as a teaser on that, it is that there should never be a case where once you reach crime stat X, nothing further matters. If you don't do this, you will certainly have players just pulverizing each down character just for the lulz. And if that happens, it will completely undermine all the rest of the hard work done on the injury and medical system because everyone will just get pulverized to nothing at the same time. The rest won't ever actually be played. So with those two small items out of the way, let's get to what I think is the real deficiency in the system that was presented. And that is what really boils down to is that the players are given just two options. Options that I think they might actually want to do about 10% of the time each. That leaves 80% of the time when they will be angry. Really angry. Furiously angry. Write scathing social media posts on how the game has been ruined angry. Demanding refunds angry. Have I given you an idea of how angry I am talking about? So here are the two choices. Now, from the description elsewhere in the video, my understanding is that the Spacebar option jumps ahead in time after a long period of regeneration and therapy in a possibly faraway hospital, having lost all your gear, not that big a deal, and having taken a full hit towards your inevitable permadeath, which is a big deal. Spacebar is not to be taken lightly. The M key, on the other hand, I understand, would trigger a mission with a default payment structure for players to come and revive you, possibly if they bring a sufficiently capable medical ship to let you continue ahead right where you left off. And if the players don't respond sometime close to the end of the period, an NPC medical crew will come and fulfill the revival mission. All you have to do is wait. And wait. And wait. And wait while you get angry and still more angry and even more angry than that. You can build a heck of a lot of angry waiting looking at a grayscale scene through almost a half hour of your limited game time. Time which will instead be spent posting "this totally blows now" posts using their phone. I can post a lot of angry complaints in 20 minutes, and I bet you can too. Now, a question that was unanswered in the video is what happens if you just log out while downed. My presumption is that the default action will be to start the revival mission and timer while making your character become comatose and only able to be transported to the hospital, not revived, because you're logged out. If you log back in after that time, you will be in the hospital, either with or without a death of a spaceman fatality notched against you, depending on how the rescue mission went. This should not be considered a valid alternative, though, because being bored, disappointed, and angry outside the game is not an acceptable substitute for being bored and angry inside the game. They can write just as many salty posts outside the game as inside. So what I am saying is that there needs to be other options available to the player. Options that still allow them to be a player, although the additional options should not undermine the validity and occasional desirability for the original two options. The first, let's call it N, triggers a revival mission and switches to an alt character. Let's say your Han character is downed, and you can switch to your Chewie character automatically on the same server. If you do, the Han tune is still there and in the same countdown timer running. Only that the Han character is now, just like the logout, comatose rather than downed but awake. Can the Chewie character take on the mission to rescue him? Of course, but they don't have to. They can decide that others are better skilled and equipped for medical rescue and use the time to take care of other business. The rescue team, of course, now can't just revive the Han character since the player isn't available to take them, just like if they were logged out. Therefore, the only option is to stabilize the Han character with an evac bed, which halts the countdown, and then deliver them to the intake facility in the hospital. Once that is done, the player can, whenever they wish, log out of the Chewie character and back in as the Han character in the hospital bed. The second additional option, let's call it O, principally is those who don't have a second game account. It triggers the mission and switches temporarily to the Heir character. Every character is presumed to have an heir anyway, so let's make use of them. One potential difference is that the N option, the alt character, will be using their own ships, credits, equipment, etc., while the O option, the character, is the heir itself, so they can use the original character's credits and ship and can do things on their behalf, like file insurance claims on the original character's ships. So, and let me emphasize how essential I feel this is to keep the medical system from being a disaster to the game. There should be 4 options. Which would you choose when? Well, choose Spacebar if you think the situation is just too completely screwed up to fix, and take the death of a spaceman and equipment hits. Choose M if you think that help is nearby and you are willing to wait for the advantage of possibly being able to continue from where you are. Choose N if the wait time is going to be longer and you want to stay active doing things while your primary character is being rescued and transported, possibly also being the one to do it yourself. Choose O in the same circumstances, but either you don't have an alt character or need to work as a proxy of the downed character. So, CIG, please get these 2 extra options in the game as a top priority, or, I hate to say this, delay the medical gameplay. You can have a disaster on your hands otherwise, considering how furious gamers can be over forced downtime. Then, as a postscript, I'd like to make a suggestion about medical craft. We currently have the Capital class with the Endeavour Hope, Large class with the Apollo, Medium class with the Cutlass Red, and we should round it out with a Vehicle class, Ursa Medical, with a single Tier 3 bed in the back, and a Small class, Pisces Medical. Same thing. Easy peasy. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Daniel Raymond for Ray's Guide.